Okay, I'm testing right now. Yes, it's working now again, right? You can see it now. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So what time is it now? It's almost 9. Okay. Um, okay, we'll just do a one really short code, and then we'll take a break. Okay. So in the book, you have already learned how to manipulate the DOM using a very special function called get element by ID. Okay, you've seen that already. And so I'm going to show you here just one way to do that. So we'll keep the script as is here. Right below the script, I'm going to put here a let's see, what should we do here? Okay, so I put here a variable called just p. I'll give it an ID. ID is a message, and the put here is, it would say welcome to JavaScript. Okay, so this is a tag with an ID, and this is one of the reasons why IDs become so very important in HTML. An ID, as you learn, should be unique. So one document should have only one unique ID. That's the rule. Although if you have two, identical IDs or more, it's not going to crash your page, right? If you pass it through the validator, it will fail, but I mean your site will still be loading normally. But it has a major, it can have a major issue with JavaScript. So I'll save this now. If I run my file, you will see the message here. Welcome to JavaScript down here. That's the text. And so what we can do is, I will just do it here so you can see it much quicker. I'll press the F12 to show the console. You set it. Now in the elements, you will see the DOM. This is called the document object. And in here, here's the paragraph tag. So using JavaScript, you can grab these data, all of these, or any one of these, if you know how to manipulate this DOM document, or we call it the DOM. And the reason why we have an ID here is because we can target this paragraph tag using its ID. Once you have access to the ID here, once you can target this paragraph tag or any tag in this document, you can do all sorts of stuff to this page. So I know that ID is called message. And because IDs are not tag specific, right? You can assign ID to any tag. And when you access this information, you don't care what this tag is. All I know is it has an ID called message. And with this message, I can grab the content here. Okay, so if I go to the console, and now using this function called get element by ID, which is part of the document. So the long way to do this is like window document get element by ID. Okay, you see a bunch of them here, but the first one we look at is the get element ID here. So this is a function. Function has parentheses, right? And because again, a window is always here at the window level. So normally you don't have to type the word window. It's just too long. So you just drop the whole word window here and just use document. And this function takes one parameter, and it's a string. The string here is the ID that we want to target or extract. Point a reference to any tag here with a given ID. And our ID is called message. So it's a string. So you put a single quote or double quote, it doesn't matter. I put here double quotes, and it's called message. It's case sensitive, so make sure it has to have the same spelling. And so if I hit enter, you will see that it returns to me that same paragraph tag that has the matching ID and its content followed by the closing paragraph tag. So it grabs everything inside here. If you highlight it, you will see that it's been, if you hover, it's highlighted up in the screen up here, you see it. So you can see that using JavaScript, you can target any of these tags and manipulate its content. But because I write the code this way, I cannot go back and reuse it again. To reuse it, you have to assign this whole string, whole code into a variable. So in this console here, if you want to use this message again, this command, you just press up and down arrow key to go back and forth between those commands. So if I press up arrow key, you'll see that the message I typed earlier is there. If you have more commands, it will all be listed here. As you can see, these are the ones I typed before. Okay, so I don't have to retype it again. That's all I want to show you here. And I'm going to move to the front of this statement and assign this to a variable. I could call this just MSG for message equals that. And then now I have a variable called message MSG that is pointing to this paragraph tag. So if I type in MSG again, you see that it prints the same tag. So this MSG is equivalent to the P tag. It's actually an alias to the P tag. It points to that same tag. So now I can do a lot of stuff with this tag. And let me clear my screen and show you here. So MSG. And if you want to grab the content, like the string here, out of this P tag, then you can use the message dot. And you see again a bunch of commands. I mentioned earlier, these are properties of the P tag. So this is an object. So every element in the document is an object. All the HTML tags are objects. If they are not object, you're not going to be able to see anything here at all. Okay. So if you scroll down, you see a bunch of properties, functions, and there's many of them. And so the one that you will be using quite a lot is either the inner text is one of them, and the other one's called the inner HTML, which I don't see here, but yeah, you have a lot of these functions as well. Let's see down here. Okay, then it starts out down here again. A, B, C, D, all the way again. There's a lot. Okay, there's an inner HTML. And it's like two sets. It's starting from up here from A, B, C, D, all the way to, Z, and then goes back to A again. Some of these are properties, some are functions. So the one we want to grab is, if you want to grab the text, welcome to JavaScript, you can use the message.inner text. Okay. If you just hit return, you can see that I retrieve the message or the text from that paragraph tab. It does not grab the paragraph tag at all, right? It just grabs only the text and it returns that. So you could do something like, T or txt is equal to msg.inner text. So here I just create a variable called txt that stores that text, which I grabbed from this paragraph tag. Because initially I targeted to that get inner HTML, I'm gonna get element by ID. And if you look at the elements, let me close this down here. Right, the paragraph tag here is still the same. So this message.inner text returns the content of the paragraph tag. If you want to change its content, then you treat it like a variable. So if you do something like this, let me clear my screen. If I do msg.inner text equals something else, it's a text. Then I'm going to replace the content inside this paragraph tag. So you can say howdy, right? If I hit enter, watch what happens here. Okay, it changes the content, welcome to JavaScript, to the new text called howdy. And if you look at the elements section, you will see that now has been changed to howdy. And this is how you use JavaScript to manipulate the DOM, the document object model in here. So all of these, everything you see in here in this document can be manipulated, change, alter, delete, whatever. Can make them to move, to make clickable, animate, all sorts of stuff using JavaScript. And I just did that here. You can change the content. You can even add CSS to this text here. Okay, so the inner text returns and change the text inside the paragraph tag, like you see here, right? It did not change the ID or the paragraph tag itself, just the text itself. Okay, let's go back to the code one more time. And oh, by the way, this is just temporary, okay? It's not a permanent alteration of your code. If you refresh your page, everything gets back to normal, okay? So just like we did a little bit last time, we can change the CSS and stuff like that. And the console here is only temporary. So let's go back and let's do one more thing here. So inside this paragraph tag, I got that. So let's say that inside here, I'm going to wrap the JavaScript word here with a span tag, because you can, right? I put a span over here. You know what? Maybe the I is better. So it's italicized. Sorry, or the B, it doesn't matter. So the word JavaScript is now italicized, as you can see here in the browser. Okay. Okay, so I want to show you is the difference between the two functions or two properties, inner text and inner HTML. Because we learned that the inner text returns just the text itself. The other one is inner HTML, and I'll put here message 2 is equal to document that get element by ID, same one. No, actually, wait, hold on. We already have that, right? So a message is already there. Oh, it's gone. Sorry. So let's do it again. So we say message is equal to, you know, instead of call message, let's call something else. Call the P tag. So it's a P. Okay, the paragraph tag is equal to document that get element by ID, and ID is of course message. So P points to that P tag. And so the P dot inner text, as you can see, returns just the text itself. As you can see, you don't see the I, right? The I element, because it ignores all HTML tags. It just extracts only the text and returns those to you. The other one, however, the P dot inner HTML, as you can see, it returns all HTML elements included in that paragraph tag. So that is the difference between the inner text and inner HTML. When you replace it, of course, you can do it in either way. If you don't include the parentheses, then I mean, if you don't assign to a variable, then it's been treated as a property. It returns the value. If you change the content, then you assigned these properties with a new value. So you can do again p inner HTML inner text. We already saw that. Hi. Now that's a text right here. You can also use the p.inner HTML. Same thing. You can replace that in here. And both of these are just strings right now. You can look at the elements. You can see that it has the word hello here. Of course, just like any string, you can use the up arrow and then you can add in here any tag you want. You can put like an H2, or you can put H3. You can put like the italicized back or the B for bold. You close that with the B. And then now it's bolded. There you go. Same thing with the inner text. You can also do that too. So assigning data is the equal sign. If you retrieve the data, just don't use the equal sign. And if you want to extract the HTML elements with it, use the inner HTML. Otherwise, use the inner text. So everything here, as you can see, gateway all the way down to the word here. If you refresh this again, so the entire element is contained within the body, right, of your tag. If you want to grab all your text inside here, then you can do document dot body dot inner text. You can see if I do that, it returns all the text in this document up here, right? Just the text itself. And this is really useful for scraping websites. So you can write a JavaScript to go to any site you want and scrape the content using the element.inner text. You can grab all the data, come back as a long string of text, and then you can extract those texts into, use them for whatever reason you want. And that's how search engines uses goes to your website, collect your data, so they can add it to their database and they can search them. And then if you use the inner HTML, then you see that it returns as a long string of HTML, including everything that you have, even the JavaScript tags here, my paragraph tag, all the script that comes with it. This script here is part of the live server, so this one is auto-generated. And if you're interested in finding scripts, you do this way. Why would you do this way? Well, maybe if you want to know, like on a website, how many images they have on the site. So you can extract all the HTML content, and then in here, search for the image tag, right? All right, I know I used more time than we should, but let's take a short break. We'll come back and then we'll do one more simple code I want to show you before we sign off tonight. So I'll see you back at about, what, at 9:20? Yeah, 9:20.
Okay.
All right, see you guys soon.
Ask you a question before we get started.
Yes.
Going back to your inner HTML.
Mm-hmm.
If you wanted to pull the second tag out, what would you do? The text only from the inside of the second one. Like the italicized one. Was that advanced?
You mean like from here?
So you pulled the whole HTML.
Mm-hmm.
How would you pull just a section from like a tag within a tag?
Oh, like the tag, like you don't want all the other stuff?
Yeah, so if it was, I don't know, an element inside of an element.
Yeah. Well, to do that, right, you would have to you have to know what the tag is.
Should we do it by tag name then?
Yeah, you can do by tag name if you want to do right. So you have all these other functions like by tag name, by class, right? Class name, by the there's another one. So the tag name will give you only one choice. You can pick all the paragraph tags, all the div tags, but the problem is if you have a tag that is nested inside another tag and they're different, right? So for example, if I do like here, right? Like you mentioned, if you want to grab the I tag from the paragraph tag, right? So by the tag name, you can only pick either paragraph or the I. You cannot pick both. And so you have to do a few steps to do that. So you first extract this paragraph tag and then extract the I tag from there.
Or another, they just repeat it over again
Yeah, so if you're
out
interested,
of that variable. Yeah.
yeah, if you know exactly what you want, then you can just pick the I tag because there could be, you know, for example, I could have another one down here, say a div tag that might have another I tag has the word, you know, GTC, right? If I do that, if I grab the I tag, it's going to find the entire page and grabs all the I tags. And how do you know which one to grab? If you're only interested in the first one, then you have to know where to grab that. So for example, if I do that and go back here, right? So if I do a, let's say I is equal to document that get element by tag name right here. And the tag is indeed the I tag, right? So what you get is a collection of tags. And there are two of them because we just created two of them. So now you know that which one do you want to, you know, grab? Is it the first one or the second one? And
Okay.
right, so if you do it this way, if you know that you want to grab the first one only, and since the I tags do not have an ID, you cannot target that tag. If it has an ID, then you can grab it. If you don't know the ID, then you can grab using the tag name. And from here on, this is a collection of tags. So the first one is followed by, is referenced by this 0 index.
Right.
Second is by 1 and so on.
Okay.
So to grab that, so you would say, and this is like way ahead of our discussion.
Right. Right.
I'll show you anyway. So I of 0 will give you that first tag, I tag. So I of 1 will give you the second tag.
Okay.
Okay. I mean, there are lots of ways. This is just one way. And if you know that the tag of 1 is inside the paragraph tag, then you can point to the tag that has an ID of message and then grab its I tag. I mean, there are lots of ways. And I'll show you next time.
Right.
Great question, though. When we get into DOM manipulation, it becomes really important. Okay, so we'll just do one more little exercise here, and then we'll call it a night. So since we know that this message could be manipulated using JavaScript, why don't we do something like the following, which is I think it's kind of similar to what you do in the exercise assignment. So let's say that right below here, we're going to do a div tag. Inside this div tag, let's create a input tag that has an ID called just put here a data, I guess. Okay. And then we'll put the next one here, a button tag. And then in the button tag, we're going to put in here, which is say update. And the button also, we're going to, for now, we're going to associate this button or assign this button an event, because when we want to do is to click the button, and then this button is going to grab the data from the input. Actually, you know what? No, let's do something simpler. This is a little bit too complicated. So let's do this way. Let's put here a variable data equals whatever text we want to call it. I just put here we're seeing rocks, I think. Okay. And then when I click the button, let's see.
You have to put the var inside the script.
Right. Good catch. Okay. So in here, I'm going to do to make this work. I have to use a function, okay, which is kind of similar to the alert function that you used and the exercise. I think the exercise asks you to a prompt. It prompts you for an input. You enter the data. It goes into data and so on. But here, just to make this work, and just don't focus on the function, but just how the DOM is being manipulated. Okay, so let's put here a function called update. Write it like that, and put this var inside the function like this. And then right below the var data, we're going to do what we just did in the console. We're going to target this paragraph tag by the ID. Okay, so you put here var p is equal to document dot get element by ID. And inside here, we'll put the ID call value call message. Okay, if it's confusing, don't worry. We'll do a lot of this later on, so it will become a second nature to you. Okay, and then once we get that paragraph tag, then we're going to change the content of this paragraph tag, this whole thing, to this new data called racing rocks. Okay, so we'll do here p dot inner. You can do either one. I'll just do inner HTML, which is it's more common. Equal data. So it does just three things here. It assigns a new variable. We target an element in the DOM, this paragraph tag. We change its content to the new content. And we do that when we click this button down here. So the button down here, it will be assigned to an event called onClick. And is assigned is equal to, then here in parentheses, and I mean double quotes or single quotes, it doesn't matter, the function name called update. Okay, so again, this is a function we create for now. So it'll be similar to, it says alert window, right? Same thing, but except it's called update. So what this one does is when you click the button, it's going to call this click in event. It's going to load this function called update. It goes in here and then executes these three statements. And when we're done with that function call, it's going to change the content to the new content here. Okay, so if you save that now, functions by the way, it does not do anything here until you call it. Or the term you something is referred to as invoke it, right? You invoke the function or call the function like we did here, then it will be activated. So save that, and if you go over here, now you see that, right? This text here still says "Welcome to JavaScript," and if there's no error, if I click Update, you see it changes to the new content. Okay, and I'll put it on the right so you can see the code. And it once it changed that to that, it stays that way until you refresh it again and it starts over again. So this is how you manipulate the DOM using JavaScript. And I'll give you like it's like more like it's a preview of what's coming up and ahead in the next couple of chapters. You're doing a lot of these in this course. So what I just showed you is a different way of how to change or write data to the browser without going through the write function, right? We did not write it to the screen. We manipulate or write content to something that already existed in the DOM and in the content. And as you go through exercise 1, chapter 1, or if you already done it, that's okay. You'll see that it uses a lot of the write function because it kind of give you a really just very simple ways to write code to the browser, which is fine. It's intro chapter, so it's okay to know these stuff. But eventually, you're going to stop writing these functions using the write function. You're going to be using a lot of this method down here. Because if you do it this way, then you can see that it doesn't matter where this function is. It does not have to be inside this document. It can be an external file, and you just import it in, or in library, right? You import it in, and you access it that way. So your code is not too obtrusive, not too, not to exist in the same page as your document. For now, you see that in your code, you have a lot of scripts embedded together with HTML, and it gets kind of ugly as these get, pretty large. So functions are really powerful features in any language because they are very portable and modularized. Okay, so that's yours work. I hope it does.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so again, JavaScript is very sensitive. Okay, if you make one tiny error in your code, it's not going to work. So for example, if I misspell, because these are case sensitive, okay, you gotta type exactly the way they are defined here. So if I forgot to say I lowercase my L here, right, L here, and because it's not a existing function in the DOM, it's not going to work. So if I refresh my page, if I click on a button, as you can see, nothing loads, and you don't see any errors here until you load the console. And if you press F12 in the browser and you go to the console, if you try to load it and you click on the button, it should tell you an error. If it doesn't tell you an error, I'm not sure why it doesn't tell me, but okay, it doesn't tell me. So yeah, usually it should give you an error. Let's do it this way. That's because this is a legal way to declare variable objects. So let's do something else. That's fine. Say if I got if I mistype data with a capital T instead, maybe that'll work. If I say that with a capital T and go back here and refresh, reload my page, click the button. Okay, you see that it does not work up here, right? It didn't do it, but it tells you it's an error. So every time there's an error, your code stops at that line and the rest of the code will start working for JavaScript. It says data is not defined because it has a capital T. Of course, it doesn't tell you that, but at least you can compare that data is not defined because in line 36 right here, line 36, you click on it, it will tell you, we'll go back to your code, you see the line 36, data is not defined. So this is a syntax error. Syntax error is really easy to fix because it tells you exactly what the error is. Okay, so I can correct that by going back to data, if I save it, and then there's fine, it's okay now, right, works. What I showed you earlier is called the logic error. So if I put like the lowercase l I showed you earlier, right, lowercase l, save it, and if I run it, as you can see earlier, it didn't work, but there's no error messages either, because that is completely legal. This code is legal. I'm thinking that, okay, I want to use the actual function in or property of the p tag, but because JavaScript is a dynamically typed language, you can add properties as you go. It doesn't have to be part of the object. So this is a given, this is required, like the location we saw earlier, right? This is a built into the browser, but I can also do something like this, p dot, xyz is equal to, 1, 2, 3, and that would be fine. And I can alert that, alert p.xyz, right? So it doesn't have to exist in the framework. You can add these properties as whatever you want as you go. That's why the error was not detected. So as you can see, if I go back here, I refresh it, it pops that message right here, 1, 2, 3, and then it changes the content. Okay. So it's very tricky as you write code, and you will run into these kind of issues later on. So it may be really hard to find, but just be careful when you write variables and properties and objects. So okay, I will stop here, and then um, if you already finished the 5 assignments, great. If not, the last I think 2 or 3 will go a little bit deeper into creating variables and how to write those variables. I'll put them to the web page. And again, if you have any issues with the CSS or if your page doesn't load exactly what's in the book, don't worry too much about it. You're more than welcome to change the CSS, change the layout any way you want. Okay, you don't have to just use what they have. I'm more interested in seeing the code than the design in this class. Okay, we focus more on the interactions in the scripts. So that's important. And since you already know how to, create variables in different ways, how to create objects this way, you are also more than welcome to change the way the exercises are written. If you don't want to use the right, and if you want to use a different way like we did today, feel free to do so. I actually encourage that. But of course, if you follow the instructions in the book, then it gives you everything in detail already, right? So how to do it, but just make sure how you know how to do them by yourself on your own, right? Okay, so next week we will move on to chapter 2, and chapter 2 covers data types of JavaScript, and there are about, I would say, 5, maybe like 6 major types of data in JavaScript, and we're not going to be able to learn all of them, but mostly the 3 or 4 types we'll learn, like the integer. We already kind of went over that last week. The integer, the float, decimal numbers, string, and a Boolean. Okay, and then later on, we'll learn objects, prototype objects, functions is also a data type, believe it or not, and also a different type called NaN, like the NaN here. Okay, NaN is so NaN versus null. Okay, we'll learn what those are. NaN just means not a number. That's what it means. And we'll learn the Boolean, which is true and false. It's a Boolean type. Numbers, whole numbers is integer, decimal, and string can be a single quote or a double quote, either one. Characters, it doesn't have a single character in JavaScript. It's just be treated as a string. And then functions, which I kind of show you already. Okay, function type, and the object would be like this. This is object. So A is that's an object type, and also an array. So we say array is that's array type. So we learn all those different data types, so you can use them in the code. And we won't use arrays and object until much later in the course, but at least you know what kind of data types JavaScript has. All right. Are there any questions before we call it a night?
Not a question, but I just wanted to confirm. I did add the files onto Apollo in the same folder, and it did show up with the CSS and everything correctly.
Yeah.
So that was the problem.
Awesome. Good work. All right. So just one thing you can, when you do your assignments, I have students in the past who would create a single folder for this course, and then inside the folder you can have like unit 1, unit 2, unit 3, and you can give me just the same link to folder submission and the assignment submission, or you can link directly to the assignment. Either way you do it, it's fine. Okay, so and then Dennis, I will reset your password and I'll send that to you. Actually, I'll put your password inside the, if you go to the Gray Center, I'm going to add your password to the Apollo account field, okay? And you can use that to access Apollo.
I'm confused on where you're going to add it.
If you go to like the Blackboard course shell.
Oh, okay.
Here under my grades, if you go to my grades on the left, and there should be a field or a row called Apollo account.
Okay.
And I will put it there in the Apollo account.
Oh, view description.
Yeah, actually, let me, yeah, I put it here. I'll put it there. So I'll send you an email when I get that set up, and you can go ahead and test that.
Okay.
All right. So if there are no more questions, have a great weekend, and I'll see you guys in February, believe it or not.
Yeah, already.
Yeah, it's moving fast.
All right. See you next week.
Okay. Have a good
Alrighty.
night.
Good night.
Bye.